Hey, MCE crew, as the great Gil Scott Herring once said,
because the revolution will not be televised, brother.
and this revolution is not being televised because, quite frankly, the power structure does not want you to understand that there is solidarity among working people that are standing up and saying, hey, you, Mr. Employer, corporation, our deal was that I take my time and exchange it for your money. And that's it. You cannot make dictates on me that have to do with taking medications, for example, that no one knows the greater side effects for, the long-term side effects for. Okay, Mr. Employer, that's not part of our deal. And so you find that according to a Kaiser family survey, we have an article here in the Wall Street Journal, some employees are willing to leave jobs over requirements having to do with certain medications. This Kaiser Family Foundation survey found that slightly under 40% of workers who have not received a certain medication say they would leave their job if getting that medication was mandated by their employer or if they were required to get tested for this ailment weekly. Then it goes on to say even more workers who have not received the inoculation, 70%, would leave their jobs if their employer instituted a mandate and there wasn't an option to get a test weekly. So people are saying, look, we want options. You found that there's some university students that are studying remotely. They're not even going on the campus and they're being required to get a certain medication. How's that work? I'm not physically on your campus. So you find a lot of pushback here. Now, what does this have to do with money changing everything? Quite frankly, it's demonstrative of the fact of what we always talk about, and that is you need multiple streams of income, okay? If you are reliant on one source of income, man, you are skating on thin ice. Now, I always talk about it, but I'm going to be more proactive in offering solutions, okay? I can just tell you what has worked for us, for my family. We're in the real estate business and we're in the financial services business, and we have been for quite some time. I left corporate America in 2008, and I haven't missed a meal since. Haven't slept on one park bench since I left, okay? We've remained, doing pretty well. So if you want to look into those industries, mcenow.com. Just go to our website, hit us up, we'll get back to you, and we'll be able to introduce you to these industries, what it is we do, how we derive income, how we set it up so that we can, not be reliant on one source. We'd love to talk to you about it. There's no obligation or anything like that, just information. So let me continue on and switch over here to Zero Hedge. They're asking a question. Is the establishment hiding mass resistance to mandates with the, quote, Striketober farce? They say what we do deal with on a regular basis now are the constant labor shortages across multiple sectors of the economy, as well as the growing supply chain disruptions and stagflationary retail price hikes. Where is this coming from? Is this happening in a vacuum? The media notion of labor regaining its power is a background narrative that they are still struggling to plant in the public subconsciousness while the majority of people try to adapt to more serious concerns. Concerns like, okay, now my employer is building a structure whereby they're able to reach into my private life. And let me tell you this, I don't think this has ever been addressed. You tell me in the comments if this has been addressed. If someone goes out and they follow the direction, the mandate of an employer to do a certain thing, which requires them to take a certain medication, and then that doesn't go well for them, is that employer liable in some way? Are you going to get to keep your job? We know of someone, tangentially, who is in the situation where they did a certain thing, they came down with an ailment, And now the job is like, well, you get a certain amount of sick days, and then, we don't know. Okay. So what are they going to cut you loose if this goes wrong? And I know that doesn't happen in most cases, but it's a question worth asking. It's important to the person that it happened to. The source of worker shortages, supply chain bottlenecks, and a lot of our stagflationary issues can be traced directly back to the government's restrictions around a certain issue and welfare programs also surrounding that issue. You get rid of all that stuff, and over time, all these crises will abate. They will disappear. We will be able to get the supply chain problems fixed. We'll have people entering the labor market. Remember, even though stimulus, when we saw just random people getting the stimulus check up to a certain income, even though that's not out there no more, we still have those monies going out for the child tax credit, okay? And that is a lot of money depending on how many kids you have. And I learned something disturbing, and if you want to refute this, fine. I've heard that those checks are being cut in the names of the children. And it's like a card or something that, like an independence card. It's in the name of the child. Now, when I was 11 years old, if you had to put $300 in an account just for me, I would have went down to the corner store and I would have had $300 worth of junk food. Okay, so this is madness, and it's also by design, because when you cut an independence card, a government welfare card, and you make it out to the name of the child, early in their formative years, you're telling them government will take care of you. Government will give you money. Believe me, that is engineered. That's not by happenstance. And I've never heard of that happening at any point in our history before. Marxist socialist groups are working feverishly to make hay with the protest around a certain disease and employee strikes in an attempt to attribute them to worker discontent over low wages and mistreatment, rather than the COVID mandates. This is nonsense. First and foremost, wages have been rising exponentially in the past year for what I would call zero-skill workers in the retail and service industries. When a potential employee with no valuable skills can walk into almost any chain restaurant or retail outlet and get $15 or more an hour on top of a signing bonus of hundreds of dollars just for showing up on the first day, there is no unfair disparity for the working class. And look, this author is right about that. I'm going to link to this because in my grocery store, there's a $500 signing bonus, okay? And they are paying $20 an hour, all right? And you best believe that that has pushed prices up in that store, all right? So that is real. You can walk in off of the street, and as long as you don't have a criminal record that involves mass murder, anything short of that, and you get a $500 signing bonus, and you also get a $20 an hour wage. A $20 an hour wage, mind you, that they're never going to be able to come back to you and say, oh, hey, Bill, look, the crisis is over, so we're going to reduce your wage down to $15. That's never going to happen. Now, of course, they could outright fire you and replace you with a robot, but short of that, wages will not be decreasing, okay? Once they're set, they'll stay at that level. And look, that's fine. It's supply and demand. It works for labor just like it works for any other product or service. So I'm fine with that, but it is the reality. We are not supposed to know our numbers. By instituting a two-tier society through mandates, the establishment has made an error. They obviously assumed there would be far less rebellion against the idea of passports and mandates. They thought Americans would just play along with this regime. And apparently, based on the numbers we've seen, it's not happening. So again, in order to because right now it's this. Government learns, okay? They don't just pack it in and say, well, forget about that. We won't try that again. No, they learn. And government wants more control over your life. If this incident hasn't shown that, then I don't know what will. So they will continue to, chip away at this problem. And you need to understand that in order to insulate yourself from having to be controlled, okay, from being under the yoke of government, people who most of the time have not gone out and done anything in the real world where you work. Okay, we have a president who has spent 50 years. He hasn't produced a thing besides a lot of hot air. We have a county executive here where I live. Same thing. Okay, he hasn't produced anything. He is just a talking head. Mayor of Baltimore City. Our governor is a little different simply because he did own a business, but he's on his way out. Thank God. He's shown himself to be a tyrant over these past 2 years. So thank God he's leaving. But most of these politicians that are putting these rules in place, they simply have this idea that they can control you. And it's impacting now your financial life because they've demonstrated that what they want to do is say that you can't eat, basically, unless you do exactly what they say. And you've heard a lot of them say, F your freedom. Okay, former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, said that. All right, guys, so if you have any questions about the financial services industry or the real estate industry, these are industries that are lucrative. And I'm not saying quit your job. Don't get me wrong here. I am saying establish another stream of income. Okay, I don't care if you do already have two. Get another one. Get as many as you can so that if you're hit on one, you still have income flowing into your life, your family. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you soon.